Don't lie to me. I've seen everything I need.
Daniel Sieber.
And I've heard all the
This is December 14th, 2015. I'm 16 years old. This is for Bible project, for one of the finals, and this is to present my faith journey to the class. So the way I'm gonna do it is I'm just gonna explain my life until now, and with events that have impacted me emotionally and spiritually. So I was born January 24th, 1999. 4 years later, after my parents have instructed me in the Bible through children's book and all that, I received Christ to my heart as a Christian, but I wouldn't really consider that it was real Christianity because I was like only 4 years old, and being son of two missionary parents, it's just kind of natural for me to do it. It wasn't really until a lot later into my life, actually until recently, that I've really tried to begin and pursue true Christian life. So, 4 years old, as I was asking my parents, especially my dad, they noticed in my brother and in me a tendency of a lot of disobedience, and especially my brother, very easy to anger and a lot of rage in his life, which later affects our family, or my family, quite a bit. I think one of the second important parts of my life was seeing my brother being baptized. That was when he was about 10 years old, and I really wanted to do it. I really didn't know why, but I just wanted to be baptized, so I had to wait 2 more years since I was 8. The minimum requirement was to be 10 years old, so I waited, and then I got baptized at 10 years old. But again, like I said before, sure, it's really significant in my life, but the major changes in my life didn't come till afterward. Then on, as my brother and I grew up, I started to witness and see how my brother's anger issues were lashed out against my parents. I remember one incident where it got really bad to where I couldn't go into my room because my dad was wrestling my brother to keep him from hitting him anymore. And I remember in the aftermath of that I saw a little cut on my dad's cheek, and all that just impacted me a lot. I started to grow a lot of hate towards my brother, but yeah, that was really tough for me. Elementary was kind of probably one of the easiest periods in school. Had good friends that I connected with. But then after fifth grade, I had to leave to the States, and it turned out to be a 1.5 year long trip due to my parents having to raise support, and that period was when my life completely changed for the worse. It was just really, I was just started to become really isolated due to having online schooling. 6th grade was terrible. I hated the school, and I started to develop into bad habits on the computer, including pornography, but that didn't develop as much until like a year later, which is when I came back. During that time, I continued to see how my brother grew in his rage and his anger towards me. It was just really difficult in that time period. It was 2010 to about 2011. All that just grew and grew. It was a really dark time for me. I've like in the past, I've always liked to believe that I was like super spiritual because I was like the son of missionaries, and I had a lot of pride in that I was like super spiritual. I was like holy, but I really wasn't. And I think in those 2 years, 2010 and 2011, that time of being isolated and reflecting back on my early stages of life, I think God used that to make me a humbler person. I've seen how I've changed from that life, and now I've also to be very patient with people, even though I'm very unsuccessful with that. I've tried to be a better person towards others, putting others in front of me. But regardless of that, it's a very hard period for me. In one of the trips in 2010, we went to Texas, and that is when pneumonia hit me, and I had to go back to Milwaukee Children's Hospital, and I was hospitalized for about 2 weeks. And during that period, the only thing I remember was being visited by dogs and play games at the hospital. Just didn't have a good connection with God. Like, I wasn't in a good relationship with it. It didn't grow me closer. I don't remember once taking out my Bible and reading it and praying. I just felt sorry for myself. After I got over that, I started to become like really depressed with all the family issues with my brother and his anger towards us. My parents fighting like every day. In 2011, I was trying to go back to God, but it really wasn't that successful. I started going to a youth group called Campus Life in Wisconsin, where we had Bible studies, we had activities. They were great people. I loved them. And that was a really big help for me too, where I could just like leave my house environment to go be with other people who taught me about God, did Bible studies, just had a good time. Something I rarely could do at my house or wanted to do at my house. Then, at the end of 2011, I came back to join 7th grade, and my class had completely changed in ECA. All the friends I once had, I felt like I was completely deserted. New classmates were there, and I just felt like a complete outsider. On top of all the family issues that I had, it was just really tough for me, and it was really affected my grades a lot. It was just really tough. And then one of the new kids called Josh Bull, I started to hang out with these because he lived really close to me, like next door. And so for the next 2-3 years, I found myself spending a lot of time with him. But according to him, he had been part of a gang. He had just been part of really bad stuff. And he became sort of like my role model. And with that, I went deep into smoking. I also drank, but it was mostly smoking. My issue with pornography just was completely with my family. Like Josh's family were like basically my second family because they were my comfort. Every time I had something wrong in my house, I could just go over and spend time with probably one of my best friends back then. I feel that the Bowlings were a great blessing to me. He helped me through a lot of stuff, but also put me in a lot of bad stuff. Time, probably one of the hardest things I've seen is, I remember clearly that my brother's anger started to grow, and this one incident where he got mad, he started to fight my mom, and to the point where he grabbed a metal bar and started forcing with her. So I didn't stay to the end, I just ran straight to the bowling's house. They just took me in, I slept the night, and Mr. Bowling, Josh's father, went over to my house, and he like helped out, but it wasn't until like day after where I heard that my brother did not hurt my mom at all. My mom had actually stopped my brother, not by physical force, but by praying after him, and described was that she saw the devil's eyes in my brother's. And as soon as she mentioned, she spoke Jesus, and she just commanded in the name of Jesus for him to go away. My brother just ran to his room, locked himself, and started crying. It really did impact my life a lot, not only with my hate towards him, but I also saw the power of God, that how true it was with my brother, how big he was going up against my mom, how little she was, that my brother did not lay a finger on her. 9th grade, continuing with the pornography, and that's when I decided, like, I started thinking about my future, about my wife, about all these problems I was having, and that if I didn't stop now, that these addictions would like completely mess up my future life. So about, I think it was 8th grade or 9th grade, bowling's left, and so it was really hard for me, but it was also really, really good for me, because I stopped smoking. It allowed me to be able to move on from those problems and focus more on turning away from pornography. And not all the way from 9th to 11th, I started mentorship with Pauline, and I told him about it, and I said I want this to change, and he just mentored me through it. He helped me so much. The problem has been decreasing ever since, and I've really seen how God has helped me through all of this, through help me turn away from this big problem that I had. And once he left, I was sort of bummed because I didn't have a mentor to like talk to. So I started talking a little bit to my former classmate Juancho, and at this point I felt like our relationship between like the boys in the class have grown a lot more, and the trust between me and him began, or at least for me, began to grow a lot. So I started sharing this, and he was like the one I would go and talk to about all this. So after about another 6 months, the problem slowly began to fade away. I started rarely doing it. It's not a big problem in my life anymore, which I'm really grateful with Pauline, Juancho, and also especially to God, because I seen how he completely took me out of these problems to the man I am today. It's just crazy that I didn't get addicted to alcohol, that I didn't get addicted to smoking, and that I didn't stick with pornography. In 4th grade, I said, maybe T48 isn't all about leadership. I want to grow. I want to, part of my process of going away of coming out of all these addictions is to grow in my faith, which is something I hadn't done in so long. And so T48 has helped me through. Yeah, so I joined T48 for the sole purpose to grow, and they have been such a blessing through retreats, through all the meeting we do weekly, and it's been my faith's been progressing, but it's still not where I want it to be. I still struggle with doing devos and pornography. While I rarely do it, there's just some times where it's crazy. But it's overall, I've seen how God has worked through me from these problems, overcoming these family issues, to just, I don't know, having this desire to grow in Him. My hate for my brother decreased completely once he left and joined the Marines. Instead of hate, I had great respect for him, for what he was doing, and I missed him so much. And all that hate, all that anger, all that violence that I had remembered, they're still in my memories, but now when I think of him, it's not that. He is my brother, and I love him so much.